In today's video, I'm going to be trying to do something a little bit more like educational than my normal content. Today's video is going to be part 1 of the movement video. I was originally going to put all of these into one big video, but I quickly realized that's going to be like a 40-minute to an hour-long video, and I don't think that's something that a lot of people would want to sit through. So I'm probably now just going to separate it up into the different maps so that people can kind of like pick and choose which of the maps they play and which ones they want to learn more about. And so this first video is going to be on Siege of Cairo, as I feel like it's one of my two favorite maps in the game, and also just has a lot more like knowledge that can lead to higher KPM games and things like that. There are a couple things I want to note before we get started so that I'm not wasting anybody's time. Number one, this guide and all of the future guides going over like the maps and stuff are going to be focused on breakthrough and also attack only. I don't really play defense on any map other than Cairo, but I also just don't really have a whole lot of tech I can give you on defense either. Number two, many of the out of bounds spots I show in this video might be patched later on down the line. Obviously, if you're watching this video like a year from now or something, these areas and things like that could look completely different if they rework the maps and whatnot, so just kind of keep that in mind. Number three, I mainly play with a duo, so I will also be describing how to play these maps in a squad or a duo and kind of like the different routes we take in order to farm the most amount of kills. Although most of these tactics and things like that will also apply even if you're solo, it will just be kind of harder in certain situations, which I'll get into obviously in the video. And lastly, obviously Battlefield is a very situational game, and pretty much every game is going to play differently, although most games will play very similar, right? But in general, there are certain times where these flanks might not work for you, and the general routes I'm showing might be almost impossible depending on how the enemy team is playing, how they're holding, and things like that. So you kind of have to learn to read the minimap and adapt to what's happening in your games. I'm just giving you the general blueprint for how me and probably most good players play these maps and play these games. And then finally, the general format for these videos, I'm going to go over the out-of-bound glitches, the out-of-bound spots first, and then follow that up with shield vaulting spots, which I'll get into. I don't think there's really many on Cairo, but I'll show you more of that on like Liberation Peak and Morocco Valley of cool tech I've come up with for the shield. And then followed up by general good spots or spots you can farm high amounts of kills, and generally just like, you know, like cool tech or ways you can traverse things faster, get to other spots faster. And then finally, I'm going to follow that up with just like a general route, and I'm going to highlight like goal areas because I feel like that's going to make it easier to understand kind of like what my thought process is and the spots that I enjoy playing. And those are just going to kind of be the spots that you need to make it to, and then I'm going to show you like different lanes or different avenues you can use to get there. So obviously I'm on a custom portal map, so this spawn is going to look a little bit different, but you usually spawn back here on attacker or over here on the right, and then you're just going to come through here, and you pretty much always go to the right side. Now I will mention there's one other spawn you can get, which is usually there's a tank here on breakthrough, and you'll spawn front left of the tank, and if you get that spawn, it is almost always better to run this way and then take a right here. So obviously if you played this map, you know this is like a good general choke point through here and then over to this side of the map where pillars is over there. This is the general choke, right? So if you get that front spawn, you can come here and farm a lot of kills very quickly. Now if you don't get the front tank spawn, basically what you are going to do every game is come over here to the right. You can either go through here and go to pillars, or what me and my friends usually do, we just go over this way, we run through this building, and this is obviously the flank. As I showed you, the line of enemies is going to be over on the left side of the map mainly, and generally there aren't many enemies that come this way. There might be more after I post this video, I don't really know, but as of right now, we usually only see about like 1 or 2 enemies, and sometimes this is just freely open. With no one watching it. And so what we like to do is we run down this way, obviously kill the enemies that are here, and then here's where we kind of split up. So what Nuz normally does when I'm playing in a duo or a squad, as I mentioned, I'm going to describe these for you. What Nuz does is he usually goes in through this door. You want to always go up top because this gives you high ground, and you're basically clearing the same angles, and you have like more angles to clear as opposed to going down to the bottom door. So up top is almost always better. And then you're going to kill the enemies up here, obviously. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this gives you a direct route to where the line is going to be. So you're down here, enemies are usually here or sometimes on the staircase. And then yeah, you just kind of clear it out from here. And that's Nuz's route normally. So what my route is, and this is kind of scummy, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways. I like to come down here. As I run past this, I usually look left because they can be running out here, obviously. I take this little path back here. And right here, this is the enemy spawn, or one of them. The other one is over there on the left, but... So right here, again, this is kind of scummy, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways. Normally, when you spawn into the game, people change their loadouts, and a lot of people don't know this, but your character is actually spawned into the map while you're changing your loadout in-game. So if you make it here really quick off the jump of the game, you can legit farm like 5 or 6 free kills with people just like standing still changing their loadouts. And so you'll see me do that in most games because it's just like a very quick, easy, like couple kills normally. And so what I usually like to do is I clear out these enemies, get my free kills, and I swing around this way. And then I'm clearing here, clearing here. This is where, again, you kind of have to look at the minimap and decide what you want to do. Sometimes, again, Nuz is clearing up top and going around. If he's not here yet, what I can do is I can clear up here. And enemies like to play here on the balcony and in here in this little room. So you kind of see we converge paths, and then this site is basically always free for us. Now what you do from here is you usually check here and then check here, and then we're jumping. And then obviously, again, if you understand how the map works, a lot of people funnel in this general area right here. So on balcony, you can also kind of clear this. But what I like to do, I like to come in here. You usually want to smoke this. And then you can run in here. Kind of clear this out. And then again, you're flanking the line. The line that I showed earlier. This is where you want to be. Or... another route I like taking is you smoke this, you smoke far, and then you're running out like this, and then the other enemy spawn is here, like I mentioned earlier. And so what I like to do, I like to jump up in this little hallway here, and boom, you're behind all the enemies again. Again, look at the line. They're going to be playing pillars, they're going to be playing up here, and you can get like a nice little, a little feed from here, while also, you know, contesting the objective. And this spot here is very safe. As I mentioned, the spawn is kind of over here or back over there, some of the enemy spawn. So what you can do is you can shield here. I'm on like a custom server, so I don't have a shield. But you would put a shield here and kind of just watch this spawn. Or you can smoke, and you can push over here like this. And again, you're contesting the spawn from this angle. Now, I'm on a custom server in Conquest, so showing you the out of bounds is going to be kind of weird. I'll have some clips to show you for certain ones that I'll throw into the video, so you can kind of see what it would actually look like on a breakthrough game. But in general, this is the out of bound, and technically you can take this both ways, so it's kind of like 2 out of bounds. So if you want to flank the enemies over there, as I showed you the spawn earlier, what you do is you run this way, and normally the out of bounds starts here. You run through this building, and then the out of bounds stops about here, and look, you're flanking the entire enemy spawn right here. And then as I mentioned, you can take this the other way. So if you want to flank A, I think it is, and you have B, then you take this route. Normally here you're out of bounds, and then guess what, you're flanking the other spawn, and you're also in behind them here. And then from here, you can kind of take a bunch of different routes, as I mentioned earlier, just depending on where enemies are. And yeah, that's generally all I have to say about the first sector and the out of bounds. Now, for the out of bounds on the second sector, there's going to be a lot of them that are actually very helpful. So basically, the entire enemy spawn is actually an out of bound that you can use to flank. And the first thing you can do is come over here. I've seen people put like spawn beacons and stuff in here. And what you can actually do is you can actually run around this way. You can hop in about right here. Is where the out of bounds stops. And so you're inbounds here. And then you can actually play very safe and you can just flank around this way. This is all out of bounds. And then jump in right here. And so now look, you're behind. The line usually forms up by pillars and around this way and then over there to the right. And this is the goal for this entire sector is this building here is your farm spot generally. Generally, this is just going to allow you to farm the most kills in this building, and so this kind of takes you right into here. And again, you're behind all the enemies. They're all going to be like up here, they're going to be under you, they can spawn behind you over here and over there on the left. And so you kind of just have to keep checking your staircases, but other than that, this is the spot you want to be. This is the goal for this area. And then another useful out-of-bound dimension are these little doors here. You can cross to both sides of the buildings if you want to. So now look, I'm on the other side, but I'm flanking if I need to. And then the last useful out-of-bounds, if you're attacking from the left side over here, which is kind of what normally happens, you can start, usually right here's the out-of-bounds, you run through here. You want to check again because they're going to be spawning here and like back there, but you can run into the buildings, and so you can flank very effectively using these out of bounds as long as you don't get killed in the zone, and they're very useful for just like playing it safer normally. So now to go over the general route me and my friends like to take, we're normally here when the sector stops or like after we capture it. And so obviously we're clearing here. You can take two different routes. You can go left here or you can go right. Going right is a little bit more close quarters, so if you have like a 3-shot weapon like the SCW, this is probably a better angle to take. And so you're clearing here. Normally enemies are going to be up here still and up on top of the building, so you can kind of get a few kills here normally, but you don't want to go this way. Generally just going this way is very bad. You want to stay away from it. And so we're here. You have to like check these windows up top, check down here. Normally there can be some enemies already playing in here, but that doesn't happen very often. And so from here, what we normally do, we smoke. You can smoke the back if there's enemies playing there, and you want to run across here. Now this is jump up, and then obviously I showed you the out of bounds already, but what you can do, you can go down here. Again, if you are playing in a squad, this is where it comes in very handy because you have more smokes. So we smoke here, smoke there, and then we're trying to get into the goal building. That is the whole objective for the sector, is this little goal building. Now, if we want to use the out of bounds, which again, I find is personally safer most of the time, we're smoking. You can smoke jump up if they're playing there. And then we're running through the spawn. Again, make sure to check. And then boom, we're in goal building, and you might have never even seen an enemy, and you're already in the building you want to be in. Now, for attacking from the right side of the sector, I already showed you the out of bounds we're going to use, but generally if you want to see the flow of what I do almost every game, you're going to be coming up here. We're going to knife out this window. This is where, again, having a duo, having a squad comes in handy because crossing this requires a lot of smoke. What I like to do, one smoke here, one smoke far. If you have teammates, they can smoke here and also smoke far, and then we're running across using the bus as cover. There can be some enemies here normally, and you have to watch out for pillars if you like messed up your smokes or they're not good. And then as I showed you, we're using the out of bounds. It's a lot safer. Again, you kind of want to check, looking to your right, they can be back here. And then we're running this way and into the goal building. And that's pretty much gonna sum up the second sector of Siege of Cairo and all of the flank routes and everything that you can do. Now, coming into the third sector of Siege of Cairo, this is where things kind of get a little weird because it's very dependent on how the game is playing for you, how good your team is. Like, in general, there's a lot of factors, I would say, going into the third sector. But I'm going to show you a couple of the different routes I take. In this sector, there isn't necessarily really a goal. It kind of depends on, you know, how your team's playing and everything. So it's just very situational. The route that me and my friends normally like to take is over here on the left side of the map. And so what we like to do is we like to come down here. We usually smoke far because some people like to play in the back of the map. You jump up on this little bench here and over the wall. And there's usually a couple enemies here, or some people like sitting in these bushes. And then you're coming behind here, and this is the general first like area you want to flank because all the enemies kind of line up here and like up in this building over here, at least if they're trying to defend this sector, right? And so now you're behind all the enemies, you flanked, you want to kill all these enemies and make your way into this building. Obviously kill the enemies here. And then this is where I like to put a shield, and I kind of watch this and kill the enemies coming in from behind. The other way you can take, again, this is generally a little bit more safer, but it kind of depends on the flow of the game. You run down this way. We're going to go down these stairs. Obviously enemies spawn back here, so you want to be careful crossing this. And then again, you're flanking them here and on pillars here. Obviously up top. And then I would say like your goal of this area, if you're trying to come this way, is make it into this building here. This building is very safe, so you're up top. You can kill people in dark over here. You can look at the stairs. Obviously you knife these out, and you can watch pillars, and you basically just hold the site by yourself, honestly. So now coming back to if we're playing the shield and you want to take a different route to attack this sector, what you do is you go right. Obviously there's enemies here normally. We go through the door and we're flanking here. Again, your goal is to get in this building, so what do? We smoke close. I try and bounce a smoke off this normally so it lands on the bottom, and then we're smoked going into building. Very safe. Now you're up top, you're farming kills. Now another way to attack from the left side, what I like to do if I'm playing here, when the attack border moves up, I like to throw a smoke across, let that smoke, and then you're gonna run up here on this little ledge, run, jump this, and then obviously again, I showed you the line, we're flanking here. So now here you're behind the enemies that are playing over here and over here. And you can kind of kill the enemies and then again take one of the two routes. Normally if you're playing here, you'd want to come up here and take the right route into dark. Now sometimes as I mentioned, this is very situational. It is very hard to go left side because of just generally how the enemy team is holding, right? And so if they have a strong hold in this general area, what you have to do sometimes is you have to go right side. Obviously there's going to be enemies here already, but a lot of the times this is just free to do. And so you come around this way, and then you're flanking the guy's courtyard here, right? Normally there's enemies here, up top. And so yeah, if there's a ton of enemies playing here and you feel like you can't go left side and you can't jump over here, you take that far route around the right and then you flank here. And then obviously same thing applies. Now, one more out of bound to mention that is very useful on this sector is if you cap this point, which is normally much easier to take than B, I would say, because the respawn is so much closer. What you want to do is you want to smoke far. You run through here. Normally this is all out of bounds. And then you're flanking pillars. So now you're on B, I believe this is. And so enemies spawn back here on the left and they kind of come out here. So this is a very hot area that you have to kind of watch out for. But now you're flanking these enemies, flanking the enemies here. What I like to do, I come up here, I clear, I look left, because obviously the trees are there, but you can kind of see over them. And so what I like to do is I like to run up this way, obviously kill the enemies here, and then you're flanking this, right? Normally this isn't out of bounds, so. And then you're back here in these little areas. You can go up top here on the staircase is another good flank, because now you're looking down on all the enemies here. And yeah, then you take B. Now, the last sector on this map is also weird. I don't really necessarily have a single goal where I'm trying to make it. It is very dependent and situational on like how the enemy team is playing and where they're holding. Generally speaking, what you're doing is you're coming down this right area over here, and then you're flanking the enemies that are playing this little head glitch over here. And then after you kind of kill the enemies on the head glitch here, this opens up basically the entire site where you can kill the enemies that are playing front left. And then you can kind of play up on this wall and shoot the enemies playing on the tank. Or you can wrap around here, flank the enemies on the tank. There's a lot of different routes you can take. So coming from the left side, which is something that you will very commonly do, what you're going to want to do is obviously get into this building. This would be your first goal. And then the second building over there on the left, the corner store, is your second goal. And so what I kind of like to do, I kind of like to bounce a smoke off here and then throw one across if we have some. And so we're coming up here, we're clearing the stairs, and then enemies kind of like to play up here because obviously they're watching into your spawn. And so you kind of clear out these guys, and then obviously you can take sight from there. Now what I like to do for attacking on this sector is throw a smoke here, And again, make it into this little corner store here is very good. You go up top and you can kind of just farm kills for a very long time. Because enemies are normally like up here, they're down here, and across like this line on the tank. And then yeah, after you kill those enemies, you kind of normally just win the point. Or if you make it into the corner store, you can kind of just farm them as they walk out of spawn. And so you usually just win if you can make it into this building. Now for some cool spots on Cairo, I only really know like a couple. Somebody used this against us in comp and we didn't even know this existed, so that's how I found out about this one. But you go over here, you jump up here, and then this is like a perfect head glitch. This is much more useful in comp, but obviously I think it's kind of useful to mention. Coming over here on Cairo, you can also get up to here. This is also much more useful in comp, but I will show it to you anyways. So yeah, you just kind of want to run and then you jump and you have to like mantle on these little planks here. And then you're up here, you can watch this spawn. You can look at if they go left. And yeah, it's very safe. You can put like a beacon up here and people probably will never find it. So obviously if this is broken up here, you can run across these pipes and kind of get up top a little bit faster from the bottom than obviously running all the way across the stairs. And that's pretty much going to do it for Cairo. That's all of the knowledge I feel like I can give you, all of the cool spots and cool tech I know. So thank you guys for watching, and I don't know when I'll have the next map out, but it's going to probably be Liberation Peak, as that's my second favorite map. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.